Welcome everybody to my channel. Welcome back to Have You Seen Nash? Today I'm here with Scott Mulhollen, and he built a Back to the Future replica, and they have it in our local mall at the Indian Mountain Mall. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of history behind it and see what all he has done about it. I'm here with Scott. I'm going to interview him, give him some questions. We'll see if we can get some answers. All right, Scott?
Hi everybody. As who's saying, my name is Scott. I own a company called Ohio Time Machine Rental. We rent out a DeLorean time machine replica that you see in Back to the Future, or for some probably younger viewers would be Ready Player One. That was featured in that recent film a couple of years ago. And before the pandemic, we were essentially doing corporate gigs, small private events where we would essentially bring our vehicle out to that function and set it up as essentially a static display. And the client had the opportunity to either do a photo op section for their group, or they could do some type of driving sequence, or we would do some type of event wherein I would have actors come out and we would do a certain skit. So essentially whatever the client wanted would be things that we would provide for them. Of course, with the pandemic hitting in, that kind of changed things, completely changed our business model, and therefore we opted to create a store. And believe it or not, in Newark, Ohio. So that's where we are currently.
All right. So I'm going to list of questions.
Sure.
Are you ready?
I am ready. Go ahead.
All right. Question number one. What was the inspiration behind this?
The inspiration behind the car, or to do this business model?
We'll start with the business model first.
The business model. Well, just like a lot of small businesses, with the pandemic hitting us hard, we had to completely change what we were doing because everything was closing. So most of our income that was coming from corporate events, Comic-Cons, since they were shutting down, the car was just sitting there. We had to figure out a way, how can we still generate income to survive and still get the name out there, the DeLorean time machine business. So we went through a couple of ideas, and my wife, Clara, who is my business partner, she's also the one who does all the marketing. She had came up with this idea of what if we do a quick pop-up shop, to where essentially we kind of create the Comic-Con theme without the complete expense that you see in normal Comic-Cons. Well, I didn't really want to do something like pipe and drape, where we just bring a car somewhere, put some pipe and drape around, and then you just take a picture with the car. I wanted to do something a little above and beyond that. But we didn't really think it was possible or financially feasible to be able to do so. But like with anything, with great risk comes great reward. And taking calculated risks, we decided to, hey, the mall is willing to work with us, and the community seems to be very providing a positive response as far as having something like this out there. So with that, we decided to open up and give it a shot.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you had the car?
So going on the other question of why would I want to do the car, kind of coincides with how long have I had it. Originally with the business model, I was studying this for about 2 years to see if I could even do it, if it was financially feasible to run a business renting out a DeLorean time machine. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of data out there to go on. Normally when somebody starts a business, they do a lot of research to find out, is there a demand, what is working, what's not working for other companies that have been doing that similar business model. And when it comes to renting a DeLorean time machine, there's just nothing out there. There's a couple of people that do it on the West Coast, but nothing that you can actually gain data and say, yes, this is going to work in Columbus, Ohio, as it's working in Los Angeles, California. So, we didn't really have a lot to go on there. But what we did go on, essentially, was the interest of what people rent in general, as far as props for events, for birthday parties, for corporate business meetings and things of that nature. And come to find out, it's just there's a variety, from the inflatable, gorilla that you see at car dealerships to, private companies that bring in a photo booth or bring in a magician or whatnot to entertain their staff and guests that come in. So I figured, hey, if we help these companies, help these these clients and I guess you could say event planners say, hey, here's another alternative. Why don't we make the theme, 80s or retro? Of course, as you know, that's kind of coming back, or has been coming back for a few years with TV shows like The Goldbergs, the Netflix movies, Stranger Things. I guess it's a TV series. But retro is kind of making its comeback. So, we threw the idea out there, and we got a tremendous amount of response. Like, oh my gosh, it's cool. Yes, I'd definitely be interested. The only concern would be cost. Cost was a huge factor. What not many people realize, and it's totally understandable if you're not in this type of business, is just what goes into maintaining this vehicle or this business, as well as what it takes to actually gain one of these vehicles to even do the business. So it took me about 2 years to develop this business model and then essentially execute it. And it was just blind luck that there was a DeLorean a DeLorean that I was able to bid on within a price that I could afford, and then go from there.
Wow. Whew.
So to answer your question too, I've been in business for 2 years. So we opened up in 2018.
Okay, well that takes out the next question.
Yes.
What's it like driving a movie replica car?
Well, at the beginning, I didn't want to drive it because I was concerned, not necessarily people kind of like coming alongside the car taking photos, but as you normal road wear and tear, you might hit a rock and blow out a tire, and then on that tire could turn into something even more severe on a DeLorean or on a vehicle in general, or somebody kick up a rock and hit my windshield and I'm paying for a windshield. The biggest issue with owning a DeLorean in general is the inability to locate parts. It's very, very difficult to find a replacement part. And hence is why the cost of renting one of these vehicles is high, or people would consider high. I guess cost is marginal depending on who you're talking to. For example, you could look at what you get paid an hour, and you consider that a fair wage. Someone might consider, man, that's way too much. I'm not paying you for that. So it's all, on a person's mindset. But, just to give you a prime example, the gull wing doors here, there's two different items that hold that door up. You have a strut, and then you have a torsion bar. That torsion bar, just to replace that bar, cost me $1,300. And it just happened to break one day. I was on a gig, so my entire cost my entire gain of running that event went into paying for that part. So it is not a cheap vehicle to own. It definitely requires a little bit of income, as well as patience to locate the part in order to repair it. And if you can't find a mechanic, you then become the mechanic. So that's another issue as well.
I figured the stuff on this wasn't cheap.
No. I mean, you have the cost of the vehicle, and then you have to mod it. So DeLoreans are going up in price. I mean, when I bought mine back in 2017, I got a deal on mine. Mine is probably worth double than what I paid for it. Just because of the demand of the car, the value of the car, the rarity of finding a car in good condition. And then finding someone to do the mod. So everything in the car, for the most part, is custom. You just can't go down to a parts store or what have you and say, okay, I need a pair of flux fans, hit me up. Or I need another flux capacitor. Now we always get that joke, well, what is it? O'Reilly's has it on their site. I think they did that back in 2015 as a running gag. And guess who bought it? Doc Brown, right? You're going on that thing. Well, Doc got it. They're out of stock. They don't make it anymore. But everything there is custom, and custom parts, as you know, are triple of what a normal part would cost. So you have that to add in too.
Have you done any conventions with this?
Several. I have done approximately 40 gigs in total since starting May of 2018. We've done anything from a small, what we call a VIP experience, where a client would come in, they get 45 minutes, basically with the vehicle, with another guest. They can basically do whatever they want within that 45 minutes, within reason, of course. because the car is a static display after all. But they take video, photos, things of that nature. We've done ride-alongs, that people can do if they want to experience riding in the car. We do not rent the car for someone to actually take out on the town, like you would go into Hertz or something like that. We get a lot of those requests too. People are like, why would you not do that? Get a Ferrari. Yeah, well, you can find a lot of Ferraris. You cannot find a lot of DeLorean time machines. But going on the cost factor, that's another reason why. But that's another question. But we've done Comic-Con events, lots of those. We've been to Indy, Chicago. We've been to Kentucky, Pennsylvania. So anywhere around the Ohio area, we have done a convention for.
I've probably seen you a time or two because I used to go to conventions myself and do like cosplay. There was a couple in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And,
yep.
I believe Christopher Lloyd was there along with Tom Wilson.
Yes.
I'm not sure of the year, but they were there at one point to sign autographs, and then it could have been you back then.
Back in 2019, the cast of Back to the Future you would think it was like a world tour. I know they toured all over America, going to almost every Comic-Con convention, major Comic-Con convention, I should say. And therefore, you're able to get signatures of the cast. I went to MegaCon down in Florida back in 2019. And that's how I got to meet the cast down there. So, yeah.
Oh, well, I guess that was going to be my next question.
What's that?
Have you met the cast?
Have I met the cast? Yes, I've met the guy who plays Mayor Goldie Wilson, Don Fulalove. Nice guy. Got to meet him. He actually was in Akron, Ohio in 2019 for the Rubber Ducks. It's a minor league baseball team up there. They flew him in and rented our vehicle to do a Back to the Future experience up there. He did the first pitch. Got to meet Claudia Wells, who plays Jennifer Parker in the first movie. I'm sorry, Jennifer Parker, I'm thinking Spider-Man, sorry. She played Jennifer, though, in the first film. And if you notice, for you diehard fans, in Back to the Future 2 and 3, Elizabeth Shue took over for Claudia Wells. And a lot of people ask, why was that? Why wasn't Claudia Wells in the second and third film? My understanding is her mother had gotten cancer, and she chose to spend it with her mom, which I definitely commend her for. It was very good on her part to be a good daughter that way. But yes, we met Claudia Wells, lovely woman. And then, of course, Tom Wilson, Michael J. Fox, got to meet, trying to think of, the guy who plays Strickland, James Tolkien, really nice guy. Christopher Lloyd is probably the best out of all of them. The guy's so down to earth. He's a really cool cat. And then I got to meet, her name escapes me at this moment, but she played the mom. I'm trying to think of her name right offhand, but it escapes me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
we've been around.
You have like a poster that they've all signed, or?
Yeah, so if you come to my store, you will see we have mouse pads. My wife was like, who in the world uses a mouse pad anymore? I'm like, well, I do. I'm an 80s kid though, but so I'm still using the old mouse ordeal. But at any rate, I have a client who's a photographer, and he did a photo shoot of my car, and took one of the photos that he took was from the rear of the car that has my license plate that says out of time on it. And I had that on a 24 by 36 poster, which when I went to MegaCon, I got all of them to sign on there for me. And then he superimposed it down to where I could put it on a mouse pad. So that's one thing I have here that has all the signatures on it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So how long did it take you to build this car?
Okay, so I had a mod builder do it for me. A gentleman in Florida did the full custom mod. It took about 7 months for him to do it, from beginning to end. I dropped the car off in late October, somewhere around there. It's been a while. And I don't think he started working on it until November, and then I got it literally a week before my first gig in May. I mean, it was down to the wire.
Wow.
No pun intended. Yes.
Wow. So, with all the customization that you've done to it, what separates this car from other replicas?
That's a really good question. When you look at the movies, all vehicles shown in those films are different. I mean, if you really stop, frame, and you see a vehicle in one section, a vehicle in another section, they are not. There isn't really one 100% screen-used, accurate DeLorean time machine. when you talk to Kevin Pike, who was the lead designer of the DeLorean time machine, they just kind of threw parts in where they needed for the shoot. So you have driving sequences, they leave certain parts out, for example. Inside video sequences, outside the car probably wasn't even done. So what we did, or what my mod designer did, was he said, look, I'm going to kind of do what I think it should look like, and then kind of spice it up a little bit, clean it up a little bit more, because we are using it for photo opportunities, video, and things of that nature. But just the common, consumer of the movie and looking at the car, you can't tell the difference. It has all the major components that every car does in the film. It's got the flux capacitor everybody was aware of. It has the time circuits that everyone is aware of. It has the flux fans and the Mr. Fusion. It has the shuttle vents in the back. And that's what people recognize when they see the movie. People that are obsessed with the film will frame it like, okay, you're missing this, you're missing that. But, honestly, who cares? If there isn't really a car you can say, yeah, that's the screen accurate one. That's what everybody should go off of. It's just pretty much on your interpretation of what you want to have on your car.
Okay. So how long do you see yourself doing this whole business portion?
Well, those of you that are watching who are entrepreneurs, like yourself, of course, I don't look at it as a job. I love doing this. I love showing the car. I love meeting new people and just kind of seeing their faces. I had one story I often share is we did a gig for Pepsi a couple years ago. This is when we were first starting. And they were doing something in Upper Michigan. The CFO of Pepsi came in. And at the time, my associate and I, we were setting up the car. And we were prepping it for the photo shoot that they were going to be doing. And while we were setting up, there were about 5 guys just walking around the car, and they were reminiscing about how old they were when they saw the movie, their favorite scene, talking about different aspects of the movie, props, things of that nature. Just having a great time. And every now and again, as one walked by me, I would introduce myself and ask who they were and what they did. And we had there was a salesman there, somebody that worked in a warehouse, a manager of one of the branches. And as it was getting down the end, another gentleman approached me. He was talking to me a little bit, and I asked him, I said, my name is Scott, your name please? And he's like, oh, my name is, he was the CFO. He was the guy that actually, his team actually want to hire us. I said, oh, you want to hire me? Thank you very much. He asked me, he says, what's been your favorite experience with this vehicle? And I said, honestly, it was 10 minutes ago. I said, because for 15 minutes, you and 4 other people walking around the car, you did not have a hat on. You weren't the CFO of Pepsi. He wasn't, the manager of some branch. He wasn't a salesman. He was just you guys were normal guys just talking about something that you loved. And for a minute, you dropped the titles and you just acted like yourselves. And that's what I think brings out a lot about nostalgia and retro items, when people can come together and share a common interest and just forget about their place for a moment and just kind of act casually, act themselves. So yeah, when people ask me how long I plan on doing this, I guess either the interest isn't there anymore, or I'm 6 feet under.
Well, I hope business continues, and after all this COVID stuff is over, then just keep pushing. It's like a hobby, like more just what you love, and
yeah, it's something that I feel like can get back. When people ask me where my shop is, I say I'm in Newark, Ohio, and I'm not sure your fan base, if they're more into this town or if they're more in Columbus, but let's face it, people want to come to Ohio, they don't think of Newark. What is Newark? What is Granville? And my wife and I, we live like 10 minutes from the mall. And we're like, what a great opportunity to bring something into a community that nobody else has. Nobody else has a store, a Back to the Future themed store, where it's something that people can do. One of the most common things that have been searched on Google was things to do. How many times can you go, to the zoo or go for a walk, and you don't see a lot of things open. even now, currently we see things open. So we thought, what a great way to just bring something to this community and put us on the map in a way. Albeit it might be small, but still, things, sooner or later a ripple goes throughout the entire lake. So, it just takes that one drop to start the motion going. And, the community's been great. We've never had an issue with anybody. Everybody's always enjoyed coming in here and seeing what we have to offer. And they're just, tickled to death that we're actually here in this town and didn't take it elsewhere.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I had a friend on Facebook who works right down the road, and he posted pictures in here.
Gotcha.
And then, like, not even a day later, I had another friend send me the link to this through Facebook, and I immediately looked it up, and I saw your hours, and was like, okay, well, you're not open during the week, but on the weekends,
Yep.
that's gold. So I was like, all right, well. And then I tried to get a hold of my brother, who is a big Back to the Future fan.
Sure.
And when he came in here, he was just like,
Yeah.
and like the whole scenery you have set up, he was just in love with it. Like, personally, I've only seen the first movie like 3 or 4 times, but
Sure.
I watched the second and third one a couple weeks ago before doing this, and I gotta say, I'm very, very impressed with it being an 80s movie, and I'm glad that you brought back the nostalgia for people that grew up with it.
Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, we just, we try to do something that can still keep us going, because we are a small business. I mean, a lot of times people come in, they either, okay, what's going on here, and they ask questions, and people really, one thing I like about this town is that they're very pro small business. And a lot of times people come in just to support what we're doing. They're like, yeah, I saw the movie like once, but what else can you do that's very cost effective, and you can bring the family and they can experience something, and for a brief period of their life, we can provide something that will make them smile. We've had some people, like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, but when they come back, they're like, wow, they just, they just could not believe that we would put something like this together and offer it to the community. And not just Newark or Granville, but all of Columbus, all of Ohio for that matter. We had somebody come from Toledo that came down here to see what we had done in here. So we hope for people that when they come in, they feel like they're walking to Universal Studios, like walking on a back lot, so to speak. They get to come see the car, they see what we've done up front, which I think we're going to go take a walk around. I'm going to kind of show you some things. But yeah, hopefully they enjoy it.
So I have one last question.
Sure.
That I'm sure the fans are going to want to know is, have you got this car up to 88 miles an hour?
Well, no. And I hate to burst your bubble. The DeLorean itself only goes up to, if you really push it, like maybe 78, 79. I mean, it shows 85 in the speedometer, but you'll be lucky to get it that high. At least nowadays. I'm sure there are some cars out there where people have done some engine swaps and whatnot that have been able to surpass that. But all of that actually was just movie theatrics right there. Get that movie magic in. Now, I don't know why they chose 88. There is a story behind that, and I'm sure you guys will research it, Google it. It fails me right now. I can't think of it. Lea Thompson, by the way, is the other lady. Just came to me, guys. I'm sure, but it's Lea Thompson. What do you mean this guy doesn't know? Lea Thompson. That was the other actor that I got the signature from. But no, 88. It was. I forgot why they came up with that. But no, I've only gotten my car up to like 72. But that's just because I don't dare push it anymore. There's a lot of weight on that back, and that engine gets hot.
Yeah, you don't want to push that.
No, not at all.
All right, well, that concludes the interview.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and
You're
thanks
welcome.
for doing this.
You're welcome. And if you guys want to come see us, we're at Indian Mound Mall, located in Newark, Ohio. My website is ohiotimemachinerental.com. And there's a link down there that talks about the experience, or, if you are looking to do something on a more private basis where you are wanting us to come to you, there's information on that as well. But we are open on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to be here till the end of April. We're trying to work something out with the mall to where we can stay longer, but then we're only going to be open maybe once or twice a month, and then we're going to theme it. So stay tuned, because we might actually be doing some things where we might have actors actually come. No A-list actors, I can't afford them. But we might get, Jennifer out here, or we might get Don Fula to play again, Mayor Goldie Wilson to come out. So we have a lot of things on the burner. It just depends on if the mall is going to continue having us here, which I don't foresee that not happening. But just FYI.
That would be interesting. I will definitely be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for having me. I think
I appreciate it.
Are we going to do a walk around?
Yeah, let's do a
All
walk
right,
around.
let's do a walk around.
So, one unique thing that separates us from other DeLorean time machine owners is our custom hover mod conversion. I am the designer of this particular mod with a couple of other associates of mine that helped with this. One being Gary Brown, who was my lead engineer designer. He's a welding engineer. So I gave him some plans of what I wanted, and it took us about 6 months from design to execution to complete what you see before you. So the whole process here was to give the illusion that the car is actually hovering. We get a lot of great feedback on this. People feel that these are the actual tires, they just go up into the car. But this is actually, the car is actually jacked up. We remove the original tires, install the hover mod, and then release the car, and then you have what you have. So they are stilts that the car is on. When you come around, you get to see a better kind of view. This is probably my favorite pose of the car, because it definitely has it off the ground, and you can definitely see that hover mod look that we're going for. Interestingly enough, with the car, a lot of times people come in to see this car, they're like, wow, it's small. And the movie makes this car look huge. At least in my personal opinion, it does. We have to remember that, I'm 6 foot. Michael J. Fox is like 5'4" or something like that. So he's a tiny guy. But when you watch it, he even looks like he's cramped in the car. And that's really how you're driving. You feel like Mr. Magoo, for those that know who Mr. Magoo is, when you're driving the car, because you are just cramped in. And of course, you have the Mr. Fusion. And when you're back here and you're doing one of the photo ops, you get to actually come up to Mr. Fusion. People love the Mr. Fusion. It is a working prop as far as sounds and lights. It does move. It's just not a stationary deal where you can't open it or anything. And a little history, this was actually a coffee grinder, a Krebs coffee grinder, for those of you that did not know that. And of course, you have all this stuff that's in the back that adds to the fantasy of the vehicle. And then some couple interesting things here in the inside. Of course, you've got the flux capacitor. You have, this is what's referred to as the spectrum analyzer for you diehard fans. And when it reaches 88 and the car goes, back in time or into the future, this entire spectrum analyzer lights up. Then you have the time circuits. This tells you where you're going. This tells you where you are. This tells you where you were. Now, normally it should be November 5th, 1955, but one of my clients had a birthday on November 6th, 1955, so I changed the dates. I just haven't changed them back yet. But normally I have the November 5th on there to show when they went into the past. Oh, here's something. Here's a little Easter egg. I try to see people realize that this was Doc's clock. And he winds it up, tells Marty when it goes off, you hit the gas. And Back to Future 1. So there is that. Of course, you have the Sports Almanac. Now, not to do a plug, but we do sell these here. Real McCoy, this actually gives all the stats. Most sports almanacs you find online, they just are blank pieces of paper. So my manufacturer, they give me the Real McCoy with a nice front end and rear back end picture cover for the Sports Almanac. Now, interesting, with the design of our Hill Valley scene, I had a young lady, local artist, her name is Maddie, and Maddie, with a small team of artists, came in 3 weeks. They did this in 3 weeks. Did this entire mural. And that was a lot of work, because they had to get it on the wall, they had to tape it out, paint it, different colors. Took a lot of work. This is a 9-foot constructed clock tower with various materials used. The number one question I always get asked is, what are these made out of? And those of you in the construction trade will know these as those cement tubes. They just put the quick right cement in. So that's what we use for that. But this is plywood. Then we have some foam core. Then we have the background, which is the Hill Valley background scene. And then, of course, this whole area is meant to look like you're walking on a movie set. So you've got the lights above. You've got lamps that are spread out around. Chairs, just again, give you that illusion that you're walking onto a set. It's all for you. This is essentially what you're paying for when you're coming into the store. This is the experience that you get to come into, walk around, be a part of. Anything from just taking pictures next to the car to actually being able to sit in the vehicle.
Can you turn the date thing on again? Okay, so this is inside a store. There you see a diagram of Hill Valley, but we'll get to that in a second. But along the walls here inside the store, it's set up to look like you're inside of a movie set. So here's the diagram that is almost identical to Doc's that was in the movie when he talks to Marty about what they could possibly do and how it would work, and see if they could get the car up to 88 miles an hour. All right, so this is the other side of the store. Here we have 3 posters for the 3 movies. And over here is what it looks like to be Doc's workstation with clocks on the wall set to a specific time. We got a workbench with a blueprint. We got wires and remote control and all kinds of stuff. And then over here we have another remote control, and it just looks like things that would be props from the movie. So this is the front of the store, the outside windows. Here we have a chair, we have the out-of-time license plate with Marty's hat on the TV, the sports almanac, and then we have a Mayor Goldie Wilson poster. And over here on the other side, we have a chair that's got Doc's hat on it with a newspaper, it looks like. Then we have some other stuff, and then we have the TV, High Time Machine Rental, The Experience.